Las Vegas. Pray for me. The point is, we'd like to take your questions, and I'd like to limit each person when they ask us a question to address whichever one of us you want to answer it. And you got to remember, we're U.S. government whistleblowers. We can only talk about stuff that we were a witness to or party to, and or things that deal with the subject matter directly that are published. And that would be mind control. I'm going to start up front, and
we have a mic here. We'd like to get it on tape.
well, wait. Yeah, we got a mic here. Sorry. We'll pass it around. Hang on to that question.
Mark, I'd just like to ask you and Cathy, what were your thoughts on the Columbine incident when those boys shot and killed all those students? We wondered if they were under mind control.
I really don't know, and Cathy doesn't know. We just simply followed the trail, and the trail led back to U.S. intelligence at the Air Force Base, and it led back to some classified projects that were definitely mind control. I think it's quite plausible. I can't find any other rational explanation for it other than mind control. And I think that it was more than just a child going berserk. I think it was something to do with engineering society.
The reason I asked that question is because I had heard Senator Byrd ask for some children who were uncontrollable and very young to be sent to him, and I thought of you and I thought of Cathy, that Mr. Byrd is still in the business of mind control with our children.
We all run into people every day that are, if you bring up any subject that is outside of the realm of information that they believe from the programming that we get from TV and the news, that you're a conspiracy theorist. Is there some way that you can think of that, or that you know, that can break through that to them, to cause them to start to think for themselves and to see what's going on, something that we all could use every day in the people that we meet?
Yes, I appreciate that very much. That information is detailed much more extensively in Access Denied, which was a huge motivation behind writing it, so that people could become empowered to make a difference. And it's seeds of truth are planted. Truth never goes away by its very nature. It's always there. And once those seeds are planted, people are going to begin seeing it in society, whether they want to or not. And so ultimately, it's going to make a positive difference whether the person embraces what you say at that moment or not. They're still going to see it.
Denial is the first stage of acceptance. Thank you.
I actually can concur with that, because when I saw the second plane hit the World Trade Center, I knew what was going on, and I started telling everybody I knew. I stopped getting invited to parties, and people didn't want to talk to me anymore.
Yep.
But a couple of years later, they came back to me and said, you know, you made me think about it, and I realized it was true. Then I started getting invited to parties again.
Yeah.
Which I want to say something else. You were talking about you go to another country, it's so different. On around the 17th or 15th or 14th of September, I was in Fort Nelson, Canada, and I've been harassed by the police, namely going to visit my parents in the cemetery. You know, my girlfriend, who was still alive then, and I were harassed. That was about August 17th. And I went to Fort Nelson, and the police, you know, I've never been driven in a car through a McDonald's type drive-through or taken to the auto parts store in a police car. You know, here they don't, you know, it's just a different reality up there. And they don't want us to be up there if we have any sort of record. But also, I don't know if HARP is related to what you two have been talking about.
We are not experts on HARP. However, it's a very important program that has had a couple of excellent books and documentaries presented about it. Janine Manning produced a documentary with her own money. She had a little theater here in LA, and she sold it and took the money and produced this documentary herself called Angels Don't Play This Harp. Is that correct, Jenny? And it's still available. You can get it at your video stores. And it does unfold, you know, the government doesn't do anything for one reason. Everything has got more than one reason, and the outcome is well understood and predicted. HARP has got a variety of reasons, and one of the most frightening ones is that the frequencies that it produces affects the same frequencies that our brains operate on. And naturally, a subcarrier could be added at any point, at any place on the planet, and our thoughts could be...
Well, they say it can take the frequency of the brain down, you become mellow. If you go above that frequency, you become agitated. I've heard of things like
I've worked with psychiatrists, but not neuropsychiatrists. I don't know anything about that, but I do know that HARP is definitely a serious problem that needs to be publicly addressed, and more people need to be looking at it, because I think it's affecting our weather patterns as well. Thank
Well,
you.
my girlfriend, she had 2 strokes in '98, and we went up to the gate, and I told them to open it to heal her of her stroke. I don't know if it was going to work, but I was trying that anyway.
Very good.
First of all, I want to compliment you two. It was a wonderful report that we heard today. And about 10 years ago, I heard a fellow by the name of John Judge that came out. You know, that's the first time I heard of MK Ultra. So there are other people who were on this case too that they were crediting Nazi Germany for starting the whole thing.
Right.
Now, I'm a Second World War veteran of 8 major battles. I'm a Purple Heart man. And when I was a kid, I read Mein Kampf. When I was 14 years old, I read Mein Kampf. And so I was very proudly served in the U.S. Navy to fight fascism. And the very thing that we fought against, I'm scared to death, is happening now. Is fascism here, as of with the Bush people? And we have a one-party system now. And just think about that. The American people used to always vote a Republican in one part and then a Democrat in the other, and it was a balance. It doesn't exist anymore. So the only thing that I'm thinking about is we're very vulnerable in money. Believe it or not, we are the most indebted nation in the face of the world, and this is what President Bush has put us into. And we are vulnerable to people withdrawing their money out of treasury notes and bonds, and which would cause the interest rates to soar in this country, the stock market to crash, the real estate to come down, everything. And so what do you think about this whole scenario of economics now that I just talked about?
I really don't know what their master plan is. I do know, though, that what has been brought to this country, and I've often stated it many times, Hitler did not lose the war. He just had moved. And what's happened in this country is as a result of secrecy. When every society, we are ruled by secrecy, and every religion actually manages their people through secrecy. Secret societies have ruled this planet since the dawn of man. The point is, I don't know why they're destroying this country. I do know, though, that it is happening, and I do know that the master plan that Hitler had is being implemented in this country. And there's not a German with a high school education that doesn't know this. So, good point. Thank you.
I forgot to ask, what happened with your daughter? Were you able to save her?
Thank you. I appreciate that. My daughter is now free of the system, and yet she was never given any rehabilitation. As a matter of fact, there was quite a bit that she went through that is documented and access denied, that takes it right on through to where she was finally free of the system. She has a long way to go in her recovery as far as the mental aspect of what she went through goes. She has difficulty focusing to be able to hold down a job or to be able to function, you know, just normally in society. At the same time, Kelly is very much aware of what's going on. She's wise, she's deep, she's profound, she's very loving. She's an inspiration to everybody that she meets, and I'm just real proud of how she has been able to live the love that she is in spite of the magnitude of all that she's been through.
After having been a victim of 2 psychologists, 1 psychiatrist, and the drug companies when I was in college, I decided to live my life totally without any kind of prescribed or over-the-counter drugs. Do you follow the same type of thing for yourself? Do you avoid OTCs, or OTC drugs? Do you avoid prescribed drugs as much as possible?
Cathy and I are in perfect health. We maintain our health with supplementals, and we have a major expense every month with our regimen of supplementals. I've had access to the finest herbalists and finest medical doctors that practice this in other countries, and they've evaluated both of us and all of our needs, and quite frankly, we never get sick. We work horrible hours, and I mean, our bodies are totally stressed all the time, but we remain very happy and in perfect health because of nutrition, and we do not take drugs. Prescribed drugs are something that I suppose antibiotics, if we were to have need for them, but other things, no, we don't take anything.
Thanks. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. We also know the power of the mind for healing, and that's a powerful combination along with nutrition, and also being aware of other aspects that are coming in to our society, such as aspartame, which have adverse effects on us. As for any psychiatric or psychological part, when I was in my recovery phase, I didn't have any ability to fix my shattered ego, you know, and I really didn't need to do that anyway, because I found my true identity just simply living true to soul. By living true to soul, I live the love I am, and that's much easier than taking drugs or something like that anyway.
Thanks. I was hoping to hear you say that.
Good question.
Mark, the agenda is that they can't have a one world government, which is the New World Order, and still have the United States. They have to destroy this country utterly so they can have a one world government. It just doesn't work. So they've attacked the country every which way they can, like you're talking about through the education. Now it's the finances. The leaders, they're traitors. They've sold out because they believe they're going to have a higher position in that, but there's no honor among thieves. Bush ain't going to be around. Rumsfeld, look, their heads are going to be the first to roll when it takes over, and they don't realize it. So, you know, your aspartame thing, Rumsfeld was the one who appointed the brand new head of the FDA to put that. It's an excitotoxin, destroys the synapses and tumors. You keep them going, and that was all from the petroleum industry, residues. And they didn't allow it for many years until Rumsfeld put a new head in, and then, because I mean, all through Asia, they don't allow it. They use stevia. But, you know,
yeah, I was fed copious quantities of aspartame under my control.
Hi, Mark, Cathy. Doug Millar. Cathy, I think you're more beautiful than when I first met you in January '93. You know, as you know, we met in Santa Rosa and then in Petaluma, and you spoke on Polly Klass's hometown 8 months before she was kidnapped, tortured, and murdered. And I was curious, have you ever mentioned that?
Yes.
Have you read her book, our grandfather's book that he endorsed, and have you ever talked about that publicly?
Yes, thank you. Mentioned that fact as one to definitely look into, because even though it's something that I'm not aware of personally, it's like the more you know, the more you see. And knowing so much about mind control, it's clear to see what was happening, particularly in the Marin County area, because mind control was rampant because of the proximity to Bohemian Grove.
Right, for sure. And as I recall, you spent quite a bit of time at Bohemian Grove.
Yes.
Do you recall how many years you visited there?
Throughout the Reagan-Bush administration, right up until Mark rescued me in 1988.
Right, okay, well, April 93, of course, you know, Mark, I kept in touch with you a couple of times, and first week of April 93, I called you in your mother's place there in Kentucky, and I asked you, what do you do when you deprogram people? I'm sure you recall this conversation, and I said, what do you do with the reports when you finish deprogramming them? And you said, well, you give them to both sides. And I said, wait, are you talking about you give them to the CIA? And you said, yes.
What?
And
Now,
I,
wait a minute.
and I asked you,
Mr. Millard, just a moment. You have caused a tremendous problem in the past. You're not going to do this again. And where you're going with these statements and stories that don't make any sense whatsoever. The last meeting you want to cut the cameras on this? The last meeting
I don't think you want to cut the cameras, guys.
The last meeting we had, you were very disruptive. You were handing out pamphlets and you were told to leave.
I was not told to leave.
Okay.
You're lying.
But, okay, Mr. Millard, I'm going to ask you, please sit down. Thank you, respectfully.
Mark, there's a picture in your photograph of where we picketed a keynote, and you stole that from the Cathy's.
Do you have a question?
Yes, I got a question for him. But he's asked you.
Just ask the question.
Okay.
Ask the question and be done.
Yes. My question for you is that I've talked to two CIA mind control victims that have been deprogrammed, and both of them said that you put memory blocks back in people to protect Henry Kissinger because he's.
Is that a question?
And my question is,
What's your question?
why do you do that?
Okay, you ask the
Okay,
question.
my question to you is, why do you persist on asking insane questions? I don't even know what you're talking about. And I'm going to tell you something else. You're not qualified to judge whether or not somebody has ever been under mind control. And you're certainly not a gentleman. You're the most absolutely despicable human being I have ever encountered. I'm sorry, but you're mentally ill.
You're the one that's mentally ill. You know, I went publicly and said.
Doug, that's not part of the program, please.
You have your question. You got your question.
Let's, is that the last question? Let's wrap it up. Wrap up the case.
Anybody have a question?
How can you? This man
Is there any other questions by chance? Is there any other questions?
I guess not.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Mark, Cathy, you can say another like 30 seconds or want to say closing thing.
I think we've pretty much said what we can, and it's truth that makes us free. So please, we encourage each and every one of you to continue to ask questions, look further, consider other perceptions, and consider the reality of mind control. Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much.
Let's give them one more round of applause for an incredible evening at the Granada Forum. Thank you so much for attending the Granada Forum. Our next event is on February 3rd, 2005. We'd like you to buckle up, drive safely, have a wonderful holiday season and a happy new year for health and happiness. Thank you so much for attending the Granada Forum, and God bless. We've got tapes from past and previous meetings, and thank you so much again, and God bless. If you need anything, come see me. All right. Jim?
The next meeting won't be till February, so if you want, yeah, if you want, we can either mail it or it's going to be late. Yeah. Trying to his board being Cathy's CIA mind handler for years, so I don't know, some accusation. There's my card over there.
Right, yeah, okay, got time.
Watch the camera, yeah, you're welcome to.
Right. And then I called, when I got here, I called just to double check my machine to see if it was right. It's the craziest stuff. I told my mom today.
Oh, this is. Yeah. No card there? Oh, they must have got. They were on the left side. I guess. Oh no, I got them all here. The DVDs are $10. If you want to wait about 10 or 12 minutes, I want to park around. I'll be burning 3 at a time over there.
Oh, you're in Paramount now.
Yeah, thanks. David, okay. No, we are. Wendy's well.
Right. So on some of the tapes, when they were going after Kerry, and they were documenting.
Weren't you here last month?
Kerry was at that time a young kid, just out of the Vietnam War.
No, I thought I saw
And she was on a thorn in the side of the big, divers of that Vietnam War. And Kissinger was in with the president, so you should have seen the language.
Did you have a booth last month?
Shit. Making all this stuff. Very big Kerry. Kerry was 28 years old. Yeah. But Ryan said that the guy was in. Yeah. And that was a guy.
I introduced myself to you earlier.
Yes.
I do a talent show. Why do you make this accusation that he's still working in the CIA? Do you have any documentary evidence?
Sure.
What do you have?
Number one, there's a book out called Thanks for the Memories, The Truth Has Set Me Free. The lady's name, she's another CIA mind control victim. Her name is Sue Ford. But the first issue...
I remember Sue Ford. She was a USO gal.
Well, this is the one...
Talking about that Sue Ford? She was in USO shows in Vietnam?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a photograph in Vietnam. I know
right.
who you're talking about.
Her pseudonym was Bryce Taylor. The first issue of her book she put out, she had a picture of Kissinger on one side of her and Bob Hope on the other, and it's her high school senior class picture. Because Bob Hope bought her, like they did with Cathy O'Brien, like they did with John Benet Ramsey. Okay. But I don't want to get off track. I want to stay on Kissinger. My point is that Mark Phillips' job is, I've got 2 CIA mind control victims of broke programs who told me this.
And Sue Ford says it's in his book that
it's in the book.
Mark Phillips is still working for the CIA?
Yes.
Still working for the CIA. Right. But her book was written in 1 year. Her book was written for what year?
How can you say
Doug,
be a liar?
Okay, but that's what the book says.
Doug, what year was that book written?
The book was written in 1999.
Sue Ford, where's Sue Ford today?
She lives in South Carolina. And she spent $50,000 of her own money paying all the expenses for Mark and Cathy. The 3 of them traveled around the country before she realized that Mark was on the other side. And she says so in the book.
And her book is called Thanks for the Memories?
Thanks for the Memories, The Truth Has Set Me Free.
Okay. And that's your only documentation, her stating it?
No, remember, he cut me off when I was reminding him about our conversation when he was in Tennessee 2.5 months after he left Santa Rosa and Petaluma, Sonoma County. That I called him and I asked him, Mark, I said, you've been doing such a great job of deprogramming these people around the country. What do you do once you deprogram them? What do you do with the reports? He said, Doug, I give it both sides. I said, Mark, wait a minute. Are you saying you give it to the CIA? He said, yes. I said, well, how can you justify doing this? I said, do you tell these people you're going to give their stories? If they trust you, they tell you what they remember the CIA did to them?
But the CIA already knows it, so what difference would it make? They already know.
But they don't know who's broken the program. They don't know what they remember. They use
Well,
Cathy as bait.
Okay, I see your point.
They use Cathy as bait. And so I asked him, I said very specifically, I said, Mark, you tell these people you're going to give their reports to the CIA? He said, no. I said, Mark, then how can you justify risking their lives? He said, Doug, I'm interested in staying alive. I've got it on audio tape.
Well, you know, assuming what you're saying is true on that issue, what difference does it make now? Because the CIA has now been running the country for at least 20 years.
Of course they are.
Since Reagan was in.
But see, he goes around.
Since Reagan got shot, Bush Sr. has been running the country for the CIA, and then Clinton was under control. So they've been running the country for 20 years. So now that doesn't really matter if it comes out.
They've really been running the country since they killed Kennedy.
I agree. Since they killed Kennedy. So what difference does it make now? He can still work for them. They don't care. I mean, they don't care if I put this on television, which I will. Well, they don't care. They already got control of the country. What difference does it make anymore?
But still need to expose them.
Well,
but wait, couldn't she know something in other language?
Well, thanks for answering my question.
Right. Well, also go get that book, Transformation, and I'll show you on video the picture that they stole from my friend that was there. We were all there when the picture was taken, and they stole her negatives as well as her pictures.
Who stole?
Mark did.
Stole whose negatives?
If you get the Transformation book, I'll show you the photograph in the book.
Okay, but she stole whose negatives?
Telling the truth today. Who was telling the truth?
Wait.
Well, whose negatives were stolen by Mark?
Okay. Her name is Carol Frank.
Okay.
And she was a news reporter for Channel 50 in Santa Rosa. And we had befriended her. She interviewed John DeCamp for her TV program, and then they wouldn't put it on. I remember John DeCamp.
You mean Attorney John DeCamp?
Yes. I've been working with him for 12 plus years.
Does he know you?
On all over the country. I said I've been working with him for 12 plus years.
I just interviewed him this summer.
I just talked to him last week. I talked to him every month.
There's a small handful of criminals that are in control of our government and in control of our country, that are in control of our information, and they're suppressing pertinent facts such as mind control and hiding under the National Security Act. That's national security that's threatening the security of our nation when it allows for crimes against humanity like tortures to continue. Mind control, understanding mind control, gives us a comprehension of what we're actually seeing. Mind control, understanding mind control, gives us a comprehension of what we're actually seeing and gives us an understanding of numerous aspects of not only what we're seeing in society, but on a global scale as well. Because it's a common thread that ties everything together. It's that last piece of the puzzle that pulls the whole picture into focus where we can actually fully understand what it is we're seeing. Because once we understand it, we no longer have to fear it. We're no longer left to superstition. We're no longer left to fearing what's coming next, what's coming next. Instead, we don't. We know exactly what's going on, and we can think beyond what we're being told. We can think beyond what the media allows us to know. We can expand our thinking and learn to stand strong with a strength of spirit and soul conviction to make a positive difference in our own lives and in our own little areas of society. And ultimately that will expand further and further and further. But it begins with awareness. The abuse that I was enduring under MK Ultra mind control was so extensive that I lost all my awareness. I lost my ability to reason. I lost my ability to question anything. More and more, I could only do exactly what I was told to do with no ability to hope anymore that there was some place in the world where people didn't hurt each other.
Well, that's about all the time I have for you tonight, people. I hope this live show tonight was very interesting. We hope to bring you a live debate for the statewide California candidates for the United States Senate on the Republican side. Not that they have any chance against the Democrat, but we hope to bring you a live debate in the future coming up here. Well, I'm William Wagner. I hope you've enjoyed our show tonight. Cathy O'Brien, she has a lot to say about MK Ultra, sex slaves run by your government. I'm William Wagner, and we'll close with this little bit, remembering they're cheating and stealing Ron Paul's votes everywhere in this land. They're robbing him, okay? See you next week.
Right to assemble! Can I ask why you're arresting him? I just walked up, I don't know. This is absolutely absurd. This is so
in the townships, but they did not follow the agenda published by the GOP. Thank you.
And they did not follow Robert's Rules of Order.
All right, some people have asked for a summary of what happened. I'll keep it brief. Obviously, the camera rule thing, that was a dubious rule to begin with.
Because they knew what they were going to do.
Yeah, they knew it. They knew what they were going to do was intentional. They had some latitude to do that. Our intention was to overturn it right off the top of the bat at the caucus. They weren't entertaining motions to overturn the rule. So then, obviously, you know, what happened happened. So from my perspective, I kind of got the impression that we decided to kind of settle down. We had enough of the rioting. We wanted to get a chairman elected so we could overturn that rule and move on with the caucus. And
wrong terminology.
Right. And by the Missouri GOP agenda, the first order of business is to elect a chairman. Right. And they didn't do that. They appointed a parliamentarian, which the elected chairman is supposed to do. They appointed a credentials committee, which the elected chairman is supposed to do. And they appointed a rules committee, which the elected chairman is supposed to do. Then they opened the floor for nominations for chairman. Obviously, I mean, my impression was most in the room was shouting Brett Stafford. They ignored that nomination and in turn nominated and seconded, I believe his name is Matt Allen.
We called for division. We called for division.
They ignored calls for division of the vote, and they basically appointed their chair in opposition to the caucus body.
And it was adjourned with majority.
And then they adjourned without a two-thirds majority, which they would need to do because they didn't finish the attendance lap. Robert's rule says you have to have a two-thirds majority vote to adjourn the meeting. Here's Chuck McNabb. And I'm hoping, and I think that we probably need to call in mass the Missouri GOP and have them reschedule this caucus so that we can hold it. And we can hold it without the NATO Central Committee being in charge.
Where people can't even ask a question without having to face these kinds of goons.
While the First Amendment says, Congress will make no law, abridging free speech, right to assemble, and all that stuff, we know that's not true. The First Amendment, as much as I love it, we don't get to practice it in full very often at all.
You say guns will be taken. No one will be able to be armed. We will take all weapons. Guns will be taken. No one will be able to be armed. We will take all weapons.
Mind control, understanding mind control, gives us a comprehension of what we're actually seeing and gives us an understanding of numerous aspects of not only what we're seeing. Mind control, understanding mind control, gives us a comprehension of what we're actually seeing and gives us an understanding of numerous aspects of not only what we're seeing in society, but on a global scale as well. Because it's a common thread that ties everything together. It's that last piece of the puzzle that pulls the whole picture into focus where we can actually fully understand what it is we're seeing. Because once we understand it, we no longer have to fear it. We're no longer left to superstition. We're no longer left to fearing what's coming next, what's coming next. Instead, we don't. We know exactly what's going on, and we can think beyond what we're being told. We can think beyond what the media allows us to know. We can expand our thinking and learn to stand strong with a strength of spirit and soul conviction to make a positive difference in our own lives and in our own little areas of society. And ultimately that will expand further and further and further. But it begins with awareness. The abuse that I was enduring under MK Ultra mind control was so extensive that I lost all my awareness. I lost my ability to reason. I lost my ability to question anything. More and more, I could only do exactly what I was told to do with no ability to hope anymore that there was some place in the world where people didn't hurt each other. Not only was my whole environment saturated with this abuse, but I couldn't even think anymore to hope.